Hello my lovelies, Kira here, and today I'm going to be talking about my most disappointing reads of 2019. I normally don't spill this much tea on this channel, but we're going to be spilling some tea today, mainly because I picked these 5 books mainly because of the fact they were just really disappointing. I overall had a really great reading year, and my reading year actually was phenomenal. I had a lot of 5-star reads. There's a lot of stuff that I love this year, so in the greater scheme of things, I went down the list and I picked out the 5 books that may not necessarily have had low ratings while I read them, but were a lot more disappointing to me than I had hoped. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the books that I chose. So I'm going to rate these books from least disappointing to most disappointing. And we're just gonna go ahead and start with the one that I rated the highest. I actually included Stardust by Neil Gaiman on this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Let me just be clear about that. For what it was good. It was actually, the book itself was more of a kid's book. I felt like it was more designed to be geared towards kids. And I had read it for the Book Junkie Trials because it was the book that was the book for the Book Junkie Trials. It's the one, it was actually considered the holy grail for the Book Junkie Trials. So I actually picked up this book because, for that simple reason. I grew up for many years watching the Robert De Niro version of the movie with Sienna Miller and Claire Danes, and I just love that movie. Like, that is one of my favorite movies of all time. Let's be real about that. So got to the book and I was just like, oh, the book, I'm gonna love the book. Well, I didn't hate it. I saw the appeal. My biggest problem with the book was the fact that I didn't feel like the characters themselves were very fleshed out, which is kind of a big deal. The characters, for me, I want them to be fleshed out. I want to be able to feel their emotions like ripple through the pages. I want to feel that. One of my favorite scenes in the movie was when they were on the ship that was in the clouds and that had Robert De Niro as the captain of the ship. And they spent a lot more time on the ship in the movie than they did in the book. And they really went through and did a character development on the main characters. Plus you got to, interact more like with Robert De Niro's character, which is the captain, who is very flamboyant and very gay. And we had a lot more, fun with him, I feel like, than what I had in the book. Like I said, the book was good for what it was. It was definitely not very well fleshed out. And I was just very disappointed. Like, I was hoping to love it as much as I loved the movie, and I just didn't. And I know that's kind of a thing with a lot of book to movie adaptations, is that you usually end up enjoying the book more. But in this case, I actually enjoyed the movie more. I thought the movie was a lot better. And I know that my perception of the book has been tainted by the movie because I love the movie so much. So that was definitely very disappointing for me. So the next one I included on this list is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I know that this is a very popular book. I know a lot of people really love it because it has the hate to love romance. And I'm not saying that this is a bad book. I'm saying that I don't feel like it lived up to the hype for me. Okay, so yeah, they hated each other. They were very cruel to each other. They were borderline, I guess maybe not even borderline. They were very verbally abusive to each other. It got pretty real a lot throughout the book, which I guess was trying to add to the realism of the hate to love trope. But I still had a real problem with the whole thing, because by the time I fell in love with a couple, and this was my biggest gripe about the book, by the time I really fell in love with the idea of them as a couple and where it really started to feel like they were kind of working together and where I really felt the love, I didn't really get a chance to experience the relationship because the book ended. It was so far into the book, when they finally got together, that the book ended. And people, I am not okay with that. If I'm going to read a book for a hate to love romance, I'm not reading it just for the hate to love. I enjoy the angst just as much as the next person. I love the angst. But can we get more relationship? Can we experience more of the relationship and not just a little, maybe a crumb of it? And I was just not okay. Like I said, it's not a bad book. The fact that we had so much angst and very little, love makes me angsty because I wanted more of that relationship, more of what we worked so hard and went through so much angst to get to. People. Just so upset. I wanted more. The next book that I included on this is The Shining by Stephen King. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This was another one. I listened to it on audiobook, and I really did enjoy the audiobook. Like, I didn't have a problem overall with the audiobook, but I was really disappointed because, I mean, I really enjoyed the movie. And I have to say, like, that I probably enjoyed the movie about as much as I enjoyed the book. I liked how the book ended better, just for reasons. I'm not going to get into spoilers in this video. I mean, the way that violence was used against women and like abuse in general was used as a shock factor. Like, I know it's shocking and I know it's like it's a very real thing, but I hated how it was used as a tool for gore and for like thrill, because, you know, I mean, for the horror of it. I didn't like the tools that were used, and I know like that shows that this book was probably like really dated because it was written in 1970s, like late 1970s, which, you know, I mean, it is an older written book. I didn't really fall in love with it, and I was just very disappointed because I had hoped that, given my lukewarm feelings, while I did really enjoy the movie, like, I still had quite a few lukewarm feelings regarding the movie. I was just hoping that I would end up loving this so much more. So that's why this was on there. I just don't feel like abuse and, you know, child abuse and abusing your wife or any of that other stuff should be used as a horror thing when it's a very real thing to a lot of people, and it's a very harsh thing. And that really just bothered me a lot about this. Overall, like, the premise for it was very interesting. It was very well detailed, very well written, but overall I just didn't really appreciate the fact that we had violence against women and children used as a way to create a horror-like atmosphere when it's a very real thing that affects a lot of people. The next book that I included on this is The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. The main reason I included this one was this is a very psychological book about a man who kind of exists in a room, and he's being tested to try to get into this community. And this community is very, very, very important because the outside world, I guess, is not very good. And I didn't feel like I knew enough like about the outside world in this short story, because it was a short story, to really like get a feel for like what made it so desperate for them to want to be a part of this community, especially to the lengths that he had to go through to become part of this community. And once again, like, it was just a lot more, not feeling like this was really well fleshed out. I hear so many people talk about this book and really, really love it. I feel like the elements like that people end up loving about this book are the psychological evaluations of the main character's elements, because yes, this really does dive into psychology, and I really appreciated that about it. Like, I really love that. But I just didn't feel like it was very as fleshed out as I wanted it to be. I feel like this was kind of like the center of a story and not the story itself. I feel like there could have been like a lot more like building like around this particular short story that I just didn't get. And I probably would have liked the story like a little better had I felt like it was just a little bit longer and had like more of a world built around that story. Basically, The Test by Sylvain Neuvel felt like the core of the story and not the story itself. So, not a huge fan. But I didn't hate it. Once again, I didn't hate it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but it definitely was not my favorite. Okay, are you guys ready for my most hated book of the year? And if you guys have been watching my channel for like the last year, then you probably know what this is going to be, or have a suspicion, because I hardly ever DNF anything. I usually try to tough it out. Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. It's a beautiful book. The cover is gorgeous. So I got about 100 pages in. I usually try to give it a little bit more time than that. I couldn't do it. The writing felt like this was a first draft. The characters were so juvenile. I know that this is a YA book. I know that this is supposed to be like, you know, like that they're, you know, developing and growing up and everything, and like, you know, it's not supposed to be like the most mature book, but the level of juvenility of these characters had me reeling. Like I basically wanted to DNF this from page 50, which I never want to DNF a book this bad, like ever. So I hated it. I really hated it. If you like this book, you are still valid. This is my personal feelings about this. I mean, if you guys like any of these books like that I am griping about, you're still valid, and it's perfectly fine that we have our own differing opinions. I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm just letting you know my perception of it and how I felt about these books. And if your perception differs, that's perfectly fine, but I really hated this book. I very rarely DNF, and it's because I like to try to give the book a benefit of a doubt. But I could not do that with this book. I could not give it the benefit of the doubt because it was just, I felt like tortured reading it. I know like that's really harsh, but I felt tortured reading it. I hated it that much. Like, and I just felt like it was just not worth toughing it out. And I hardly ever feel that way about a book. I feel like I usually maybe only DNF one book a year, and that was this book. This book right here made me do that. I don't regret it. Like, there's not a day that goes by like that I say to myself, I was like, oh, I wonder what happened. I wonder how this ended. There's some books like where I kind of still feel like that way, like that I've DNF before. I will never, ever feel that way about this book. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys like all the tea that I just spilled all over the place. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys like this video, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell icon if you guys want to receive emails every time I post. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, and Goodreads. Those links are linked in the description below. Please come and join me and talk to me. Let's hang out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again very soon.